In this video, I will be showcasing a Metroidvania in the pre-alpha stages, and man, it's looking good so far, but there are a few issues I'd like to talk about in this video. Are you ready? Now that's gaming. Hey there, welcome back. My name is Nakuso. If this is your first time here, the demo review series is basically a variation from my normal reviews with more emphasis on giving constructive feedback to the developer in hopes to help improve their game. If you like what you see, then consider joining the community by subscribing. Right off the bat, I will commend the developers for putting a lot of detail into this game, from the character using your weapon to it just having that nice feel, to the animations of the enemies as they try to attack you, and the one near the end of the demo that crouches down, shoots missiles out, then like comes back up when you get close to it to do a melee attack. You can see dust particles and just other effects of the armor. It's just crazy like how much detail is put into a demo that's this early on. The old school art style mixed with the newer kind of art style you see in a lot of indie games nowadays is a really nice blend. While it keeps its own identity, it kind of mixes some of the Metroid series. I definitely can see some inspiration in a lot of the background and probably even some of the things with the character. I'm very curious to see how this progresses further on. I really like the sound design as well. Went with the animations. Every time you actually shot your bullets, you actually heard the impact, and also when you're using the sword, that swipe that you hit an enemy, and even in general when you're just doing it, it feels pretty good so far. I really like how the platforming is. It didn't really hold your hand, but at the same time, it didn't make things overbearingly difficult. There were a few times I got lost, but after taking some time exploring, I actually found my way around, and it was actually pretty easy, you know, once you actually learn the layout. As I was playing the demo, I wanted to keep going until I finished, but there were a few things that stopped me, and I guess we can go into more of the things that I think can be improved and some of the frustrations that I have. One of the things is the checkpoints. They're kind of spaced out a little too far. I know a lot of times when you get to a new area or you're facing a new enemy, I feel like there should be a checkpoint. One of the things that really got me frustrated and put me off from playing the rest of the demo is when you meet up with that show enemy I was talking about earlier. Even though the enemy is like really cool and everything, he's pretty dang difficult to actually face because he fires a lot of missiles while also being hard to approach. And this is after like a few minutes, or like probably, I would say around a few minutes going to a new area and then you dying and having to replay it all over again. It really sucks, and especially after you face the first boss, there's no checkpoint unless you go all the way back around, which I initially did, but that caused some issues as well. I would really like to see some of the things toned down with the enemies in the game. From the shell enemy, kind of fires his missiles too fast, and just the standard enemies that you face, they take a little too many bullets. One good trade-off for the standard robotic enemies you face is for them to possibly crouch and shoot at you. At the time, currently, they can only shoot at you while standing up, but they take, you know, a lot of bullets, like I said. So it would be cool if they could crouch and shoot at you, making it a little bit more difficult, but also take less bullets to hit. It felt a little repetitive and not as fun, but I think it would be a good change between the two. Possibly that is an idea. Another thing is for the turrets that you face, they lock onto you, and it feels like an aimbot. They shoot really fast and it's kind of hard to avoid them. Using your gun isn't really wise because it takes a lot of bullets, but using your sword, which I like that, you know, idea of using both weapons in different situations, but having the ability to get that close to it, it fires really fast. So maybe a trade-off for the turret that fires is maybe slower, or it can't aim as well towards you. It can't target that well. Those were one of the few things that was annoying. When fighting off against the boss that you face after the save point, it was actually pretty fun, definitely challenging, and it took me a couple tries, but I never felt like it was really unfair or anything like that. And another thing that can probably be tweaked is the stamina. I feel like it regenerates a little too slowly. I know that when I got the item after fighting the first boss, it was like a lot of stamina to be used for different things, which are attack and jumping and using a jetpack. Often at times I just had to wait around. Even when I was trying to manage it, it kind of felt like it just should have been a little bit faster. Unless there's an item that you plan to have later on, I could see that being pretty useful, and possibly it could be fine right now, but maybe just a little faster stamina regeneration. Now let's talk about two game-breaking glitches. One of the glitches I found is if you die near a doorway, you can actually still move around, kinda. I mean, you can move around left and right normally, but you can't really do any like specific jumping or anything like that. You can still slide, but that locks up your character. That definitely needs to be fixed, but it's pretty funny because you can go over the pit and even skip some parts of the level. It takes a long time, but eventually you'll probably get to a point where you can't progress. I also experienced another glitch like this later on where I was still able to move normally. I was able to do a lot of jumps. The only thing I couldn't do was grab the ledge, and unfortunately, since I couldn't do that, there were some parts where I couldn't get past, but it was very interesting to see that how crazy that can get. Even later on, I tried to die, and if you jump into a pit, the game will just lock up, forcing you to go back to the main menu to reload from your save point. The second glitch I found was respawning at the second checkpoint after dying. I wasn't able to shoot up. It was weird because I was able to shoot left and right normally, but if I would try to aim up and shoot, it wouldn't have any bullets. So the aerial enemies could just damage me and I couldn't do anything about that. I'm not entirely sure. That is really weird. Maybe the developers didn't expect me to go all the way around to the save point to save, because yeah, that was right before the tough, difficult enemy, and then I was just like, wow, yeah, that is really weird and probably should be fixed. Besides the issues I have with the game and the two bugs I need to be fixed, I still had a blast playing through Mind Seeds. Not only that, but interacting with the developer and them constantly giving updates, improving stuff. They recently added stuff with more effects, just listening to the community, listening to the feedback. Even some bugs, probably some that I mentioned, were fixed, but it was just nice to see that the developers are actually taking the feedback into consideration, implementing new ideas, changing the game to really fit the community and also making themselves happy. Keep up the great work, and if anything like major changes, I'll definitely be back to update you all with more news on the game. Here is a question of the day for you. What weapon would you take with you against a horde of robots? Let me know your answers in the comments below. And if you want to discover something new, then check out the previous review of A Radish Lost in Time, or click this playlist to get started with some of my normal reviews. Once again, everyone, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.